Dearest FX16, it was love at first sight. You were boxy, clean, and you smelled like fresh vanilla air fresheners. Along the way, I may have treated you rough. I rode you hard and put you away wet, but still, you showed up. You always showed up. And now, as I sit here, reminiscing on all our time together, I wonder, did you feel the same as me? Are we as one as I think we are? I bet we are. Or maybe we aren't. I don't know. Listen, about that time when I dropped a big plastic tote on you, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I didn't know that you would dent so easily. It's like you're made out of soda cans or something. Okay, never mind. You didn't just take me to events, you took me places. To my first Rallycross Nationals, to the top of podiums, into the heart of Grassroots Motorsports. You've always been there for me. And I'm sorry, but now my heart belongs to another. To really understand why my FX16 has meant so much to me, you must go back to the golden era of the hot hatch. The 1980s were a time of scrappy, affordable performance. Everyone was trying to outhandle each other. VW had the GTI and Honda had a CRX SI, that was my first car, along with the Civic SI. And Toyota? Toyota came out with something unexpected. Corolla FX16 was Toyota's answer to the European and Japanese manufactured hot hatch wars. Built in Fremont, California, at the new United Motor Manufacturing Incorporated plant. NUMMI for short. It was a joint venture with GM to bring Japanese efficiency in manufacturing to American-made vehicles. Now, most of what rolled out of NUMMI were practical, badge-engineered commuter cars, like the Toyota Corolla / Chevy Nova / Geo Prism. Same car. And the later Toyota Matrix and Pontiac Vibe. Also the same car. These were economical and reliable, but not exactly meant to stir the soul. So when this FX16 emerged from the factory, it felt like rebellion. This wasn't just another commuter. This was a full-blown hot hatch, and a surprisingly sharp one at that. At the same time Toyota was changing, the Corolla itself was also evolving as a model. For years it had been a rear-wheel drive economy car, with some sporting roots in chassis like the TE27 and the AE86. But the mid-80s brought a change, and Toyota transitioned the Corolla to front-wheel drive to keep up with global trends. And the FX series was part of that shift, the hatchback built on the new front-wheel drive platform. The lower FX models were substandard grocery getters, but the FX16, well, it's the pointy end of the stick. Under the hood, a 1.6-liter, twin-cam, Yamaha-headed, 130 horsepower, 4AGE borrowed from the AE86 and the MR2. Rev-happy, fuel-injected, and backed by a close ratio 5-speed transmission and an independent rear suspension. It was the lightest and nimblest Corolla that one could buy at the time. But even though it was only produced for 2 years, in 1987 and 1988, the FX managed to leave its mark. They were beloved by SCCA road racers and autocrossers alike, and they even made a showing in stage rally as well. So that brings us all on the same page on what makes an FX16 special, but what makes this FX16 special? Well, for that we have to jump forward a little bit from the 80s to 2013. See, I was searching for something special. I knew I wanted an 80s hot hatch, and I wanted to daily it, I wanted to go autocrossing, and I wanted to go rallycrossing, all in the same car. Ambitious? Sure, but I knew there were platforms out there that could get me to my goal. And my buddy Charlie said, hey, I know a guy who's got a beautiful 87 FX16 for sale. You should go check it out. Thank you, Charlie. I went, I saw it, I liked what I saw, but I made a huge mistake. I thought the price was too high. So I passed. And instead, I bought a Volkswagen. It wasn't just any VW, it was an 83 GTI, the Mark I, Still one of my favorite cars to drive, but this particular Mark I, the second time I drove it, the oil pan baffle decided to remove itself, ground itself up in the crank, shove the pieces into the sump, and subsequently lock up the motor. So I spent about a year rebuilding the whole motor, and by the time the car was done and back together and trying to pass emissions in Colorado, it was time to move back to Kansas City. So I sold off the GTI, and with it, all of my weekend racing dreams. But that itch to race, it didn't go away. And I'd done plenty of autocross when I was younger, but Rallycross really intrigued me. I thought, dirty autocross? That's got to be for me. So when returning back to Kansas City, I did what any responsible adult would do, and I went out and got a payment on a 2014 Fiesta ST. That car was pretty quick, but more than that, it was heavy. I mean, it's not heavy by, like, you know, modern car standards, but it's heavy by 80s hot hatch standards. 2,700 pounds as opposed to closer to 2,000. And one day at a particularly muddy event, I got stuck. And I mean like stuck, like they had to come out on course and pull me out. And shortly after I dug myself out and was cleaning myself off, a fellow by the name of Bob in a CRX just went tootling along around the course like he was the captain of a John boat with an outboard motor, and he was just riding the wake. And I thought, that's it right there. How can I get that lightness in my life? Light bulb. Special effects. Put in a light bulb, you know, right here. I knew I needed light. I knew I needed a front-wheel drive. I knew I needed the FX16. So I hoped against hope that Brad hadn't sold the car. I gave him a call, and sure enough, he still had it. I asked how much, and he named the same price that he named to me several years earlier, and I said, I'll be there this weekend. So, without hesitation, drove to Colorado, picked up the car, drove it all the way back to Kansas City at 80 mile an hour, screaming 4,500 RPM the whole way. Since then, I've been over, under, and inside out this car. I've taken it to new heights, and it's taken me to podiums in both the Kansas City and Kansas regions. It carried me to my first Rallycross Nationals in 2019, where I earned this banner. And it is my opinion that, you know, you can get this banner online, you can just buy it, but, you know, they make you put it on at Nationals. This car earned that banner, and it taught me that a rallycrosser needs lots of spares and all the tires, mud tires specifically. Over the years, I've stiffened the suspension, tuned the handling, scoured the junkyards for parts, and replaced more little bits than I can possibly remember. This car taught me how to wrench, how to race, how to compete, and it has never let me down. But sadly now, the time has come, and that trailer awaits. No, the FX isn't dead, and it's not going to a scrapyard, and it's not getting stripped or parted out. It's going to someone who knows what it is and will take far better, tender, loving care of it than I ever could. It will live out its days being pampered in ways that I do not have time for. It saddens me and everyone in my household to see it go.
I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too, but we're grateful for the time that we've had with it. So thank you, FX, for the memories, for the wins, for the long drives, and the hard lessons. You were never just a car. You were my race car, and I will never forget it. And someday, I'll come back to this platform. It might not be you, but there's another FX in my future. I don't think I can get away that easily. So, what comes next? Well, it's definitely not something that I am used to. It's not something like the FX at all. But it's also kind of similar. This is a 1983 Toyota Cressida. This is a time capsule. It's a luxury badged wagon from the 80s, but under the hood, it's a straight 6. And behind that is a 5-speed manual. It's been swapped in from a Supra. I've really always wanted one of these wagons ever since I saw one sliding through a corner, full opposite lock. And now, the time has come. But this isn't just going to be a nostalgia trip. This is going to be a mission. Me and the boys, we want to do a little drag racing. And the easy route would be to go with a muscle car. Camaro, Mustang, you know, something that people normally go drag racing in, but we don't want that. I don't want that. I'm sure the boys would be fine with that, but I want a sleeper. I want a long roof wagon rolling down the road looking like Grandpa's car, and then turn the corner onto the drag strip and just gone, you know? It may not be fast at first or forever, but we're going to give it our best shot. And maybe we could also toss it around a corner or two occasionally. I don't know. We'll see how we build it, but, you know, more than just a straight line. Like maybe, you know, something like that. I mean, not, you know, we're not talking like that, but at least like that, you know? But first things first, we got to tackle quite a number of issues. This thing really hasn't lived the life that they showed them living in the ads from back in the day, the life of luxury and caviar and etc. It's rough on the outside and on the inside. The inside's actually nicer than the outside, but definitely not so great under the hood. I'll take you on a little tour, front to back, of the issues we face, and then some of the potential, you know, ideas. Number one, it needs a new pull for the hood because I can't freaking pop it. There it goes. So front to back, we've got a freshly rebuilt 5MGE motor that's got oil leaks from the top end, from head bolts that need some sealant, and cam tower gaskets that aren't any longer gasketing, I guess. The fuel rail is suspect because the gas tank actually looks like the inside of the bottom of the Titanic. There's definitely rust like all over the fuel system, and it shows itself at completely random times. The power steering pump is missing a pulley, and that might make the power steering work a little bit better, and then make this thing steer a little bit less like it's, you know, rowing the Titanic in the mud. The exhaust is a sewer pipe from the front to the back, and it makes a ridiculous noise. Not that I don't want this car to make some noise, but I want it to make noise for the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons. Also, the clutch pedal is goofy, the shifter's too tall, the gears are too short, the radio doesn't work, there's a rattle that sounds like a piece of glass is going to jump out of its seal, and there's not nearly as much room in this luxury wagon as you would think that there should be. But other than all that, it's a peach. And it runs great until the oil pressure drops and makes me park it like I have, you know, right now. But here we go. It's goodbye FX and hello Cressida. And the future could hold almost anything for this boat, like turbo, nitrous, 2JZ, LS, turbo, nitrous, LS. That book isn't written yet, so you can help us write some chapters. Some comments down below. Let us know what you think we ought to do with this thing to get it ripping off, I don't know, 11-second quarters? I'd love to see an 11-second, right? Wouldn't you love to see this thing run 11s? God, who wouldn't? A lot of you, I bet. Tell me if you wouldn't. Tell me if you don't care. I don't care. Comments are comments. The algorithm loves them either way. But give us those comments, get subscribed, and stay tuned. And after you do all that, you go out and you find your own Apex, because it is better late than never. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to walk away from this because I got so much other crap to do. I don't have time to jack around with this thing at the moment. I will shut the hood, though. I'm not an animal. Okay. First things first. I need a drink.